Well, hospitals across the Bay Area are rolling out pandemic protocols, and part of that process is making sure people know when they should or shouldn't go to the hospital. Joining us now to answer some of the questions is Dr. Jahan Fahimi. He's the emergency room director at UCSF Medical Center. And I know, doctor, that we've been telling people not to show up at the hospital. What is the protocol if someone has a fever? When should they show up, and what do you do when they show up?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. I think if you develop symptoms that you are worried about, I think the first thing you should do is talk to your doctor. You should call your doctor, in fact, and not show up at their office or show up to the emergency department. I think when you develop symptoms that you're very worried about, really trouble breathing, feeling like you're feeling faint, or extremely high fevers that won't break with over-the-counter medications, that's the time to really escalate to trying to show up in person, whether that's to your doctor's office or the emergency department if you need it.
And if I show up at the emergency department and I have those, do I just shout through the door and say, hey, I have coronavirus maybe, and you come out in certain medical gear? Or I don't want to infect everyone else that's in the emergency room.
Yeah, great question. We have set up, and I think a lot of other emergency departments have set up, a triage screening protocol where we will greet patients outside and get a quick assessment of what their symptoms are, take their temperature. And if you have symptoms that could be consistent with coronavirus, we will quickly triage you to an area where all the personnel are wearing appropriate protective equipment and put you in a sort of a respiratory isolation area where we can see you and treat you away from other patients that don't have that infection.
Okay, let's talk about isolation and the quarantine, because that's the first thing. If you think you're exposed, you're supposed to self-isolate or quarantine in your home for those 14 days. Can I isolate if I'm with my family? Do we all hang out together? When one person starts to develop symptoms, do we move that person to another room and then the other people? I mean, how do you work self-isolation in your house?
Yeah, it's very challenging, but the reality is what you want to do is have a separate bedroom, separate bathrooms if possible, and really try and stay away from each other. If someone does have symptoms and you can get a mask, that person who's symptomatic should wear a mask and stay at least 6 feet away from other household members. Keeping in mind that surfaces can keep the virus alive for quite a while, so everything needs to be wiped down. You want to even consider things like pets as potentially a surface that could carry the virus. So it's going to be very challenging for a lot of people, but that is the recommendation.
Wow, that's super interesting. Thank you so much for your insight. Wiping down the pet now with antibacterial wipes. That's something we hadn't really even thought about. Thank you so much, Dr. Fahid, and really the best of luck for you. For more in-depth information about the coronavirus and how you can keep you and your family safe and how it's impacting people around the Bay Area, check out our special report, Understanding Coronavirus. You can stream it online right now. Just pull out your phone, use your camera to scan the QR code in the corner. It'll take you right to the video, or you can visit NBCBayArea.com. You learn something new every second about the difference here, hearing that now that your dog can be a surface.
Yeah, it's a lot to digest with all of this.
It's a lot to take in.
And we're all kind of learning this together. It's not like one person has it. We're all learning it together.
Yeah, everybody's stress level is just kind of heightened. You know, you can see it when you're out and about. So we're going to try to get everybody through this weekend weather.